I'm Cece. I'm the Registered Dietitian with Kinema Fitness. Welcome to November. In honor of the holiday season that is quickly approaching us, we are going to make a quick and easy dinner. It's a balanced meal. This version of the recipe is just missing the protein, so it's up to you to decide what protein you want to pair with it. I've done lentils or chickpeas in the past for a plant-based protein. I've also done grilled shrimp with this as well, or you're welcome to add in maybe grilled chicken if that's something that you enjoy. So it's up to you what protein you want to add to it. Today, I am not going to be adding in the protein, and that will be something that I do extra for when I do eat this, but you'll follow along with me as I make the basis of this meal. What's great about this meal is that it only uses one vessel to make it in. So we're just using a skillet, and everything gets cooked into this one skillet, no cleaning in between it. So that makes life a lot easier. And you can use whatever vegetables you want. I will walk you through the vegetables that I chose for this, and that's just vegetables that I do enjoy that work well with this dish, but you're welcome to pair whatever additional or substitute other vegetables based off of your dietary preferences. So with this, we're going to put the stove on medium heat. And I'm just going to drizzle in some olive oil, and we'll start adding in our vegetables a little bit at a time. So the vegetables that we're using for this, we're going to add in based off of how long it takes for them to prepare. So we have our mushrooms that we're going to add in first. I already went ahead and chopped everything up to make this process a lot easier. So I'm going to let this heat up for a few more seconds, and then I'll add in the mushrooms and just let them marinate with the olive oil and let them start to cook a little bit. I also have some zucchini and yellow squash that I'm going to add into this. A butternut squash can also work now that it's winter season, so you're welcome to add that if that's something that you enjoy. We're also going to add in some onions and some minced garlic, as well as peppers. And then at the end, we'll add in spinach and tomatoes. But before we add in the spinach and tomatoes, we're going to add some orzo. And so that's going to be our grain for this meal, our main carbohydrate source. And then we also are going to add some low sodium vegetable broth. And that's instead of water for the pasta. So the pasta, in theory, will absorb the vegetable broth, and we won't have excess amounts of it. So it won't be a soup. It'll be a pasta dish. And with this, we're adding in extra spices as well. So between the broth, and then we're adding in oregano and basil, and of course the minced garlic. That's going to make this flavorful for us. So with this dish, you can enjoy this straight off of the stove and have it nice and warm, or you can store it in the freezer and have it for lunch the next day, based off of whatever you want. But you're welcome to have this whole cold or hot, whatever your preference is with this. But I enjoy it, especially during the winter, a little bit more frequently when it's warmed up. So yeah, whatever season you're in, play to that and prepare it whatever way you'd like, so you can continue to adopt this throughout all the seasons. So now that my pan is nice and warm, I'm going to add in my mushrooms. I'm not going to add in the whole thing just because there are a lot, and I want to make sure we have room for the other vegetables. I'm going to add in a little bit more olive oil to coat on top, and then I'm just going to let this stir a little bit. So I'm just stirring the mushrooms in the pan. I love finding dinners that are nice and easy like this, because after a long day of work, sometimes the last thing I want to do is cook a meal. And so any sort of shortcut that saves me time, either in the cooking process or cleaning afterwards, and this does both, I'm in. So if you have the time to cook, and maybe you don't necessarily have the time to stand and actively cook, but you have the time before a meal, you can always roast some of the vegetables and then just do the spinach, tomatoes, and the orzo with the vegetable broth. You can just do that portion on the stove and everything else in the oven. But again, that's going to cause another tray for you to clean, because you'll have to clean the baking sheet, and then that does take more time for them to roast. So it's up to you with what time you have available and how much time you have to dedicate to the cooking process. But the benefit of roasting is you could put it in and then kind of walk away while it's roasting versus having to wait for each thing to cook well on the skillet. But like I said earlier, everything just gets added to this. So we're not going to wait for the mushrooms to be fully cooked. It's just for them to be lightly cooked because next we're going to add in the zucchini and the yellow squash. Okay. Mushrooms are almost to a consistency that I like. We'll give it a few more seconds. And then I went ahead and I already chopped up some oregano and put it in the bowls where I have my chopped up zucchini and yellow squash. So it's already mixed together. So that way, hopefully, in theory, the oregano will already kind of be absorbed into the zucchini and the squash to give it a little bit more flavor. Okay. The mushrooms are looking a little bit cooked. They're not well cooked right now, but that's the way that I want them because they'll have a lot more time to cook. I'm going to start with the zucchini just because my zucchini was a little bit smaller. I don't know if I'm going to be able to fit in all of the squash. I got a big squash, so I'm not sure if the whole squash is going to fit in this. So I'll just try with the zucchini first, and then we'll add some of the pieces of the squash. When I cut the zucchini, I cut it in fourths and then in 2 half moons, and then cut the half moons in half. So they look like this. Okay. Have my yellow squash. Another tip if you want to speed up this cooking process is you can add frozen squash or peppers or whatever variations of vegetables to your pan, and that will cut some of the chopping and preparation time. Some of the vegetables too, you might even be able to pre-chop maybe the night before if you have some extra time, and that way it's all prepared for you just to throw in the pan or throw in the skillet that night. This is also something that you can batch make. So if you have a bigger skillet, you can make multiple servings for multiple days. If you need to meal prep ahead of time, you can even separate the vegetables so that there's a variety of vegetables in there and you're not doing all the vegetables for every day. So you could put these vegetables out on the side and then do another variety of vegetables and combine them at the end. But today we're going to add everything straight into the skillet. I think that's how it tastes the best. But again, this is something that you can create and adapt to make it your own. All right. We're getting a little closer to being able to add in our pasta. So next I'm going to add in our onions. That's going to help us give it some flavors. I'm using red onions. You can also use shallots. You can use white onions if that's your preference. You can really do whatever you prefer, but I think the red onions add more color, so it makes it prettier, but then it also has a more dynamic flavor. Now that this is mixed well, I'm going to add in a little bit of basil. So we have some oregano in this mixture with the zucchini and the squash. I'm going to add in some basil. I love basil with anything pasta. And we have some tomatoes that are going to be added as well. So the basil and the tomato mixture will be good. Okay, I'm going to show you what this looks like now. Looks delicious. I'm so excited for this. Okay. I'm going to add in my minced garlic now. And then my bell pepper, I'm using an orange one today. I didn't already put olive oil with the bell peppers, so I'm just going to add a little bit more olive oil. If I'm being completely honest with the olive oil, I just eyeball it based off of the volume of the vegetables that I have, and I just want a light drizzle but enough to make sure that it allows for proper cooking. Sometimes if I am nervous that I've added too much olive oil, but then I still think that I need more for the cooking process, then I'll use a spray olive oil. So that will allow for a larger area of the food to be covered with olive oil, but it uses less olive oil. So that way, less oil is needed. I'm gonna let that sit for a little bit. Okay. In a few more seconds or so, I'm gonna add in my orzo and the broth. Again, the amounts that you're adding is varied based off of how much room you have and how much pasta compared to the vegetables you want and how many servings you're hoping to make. I'm going to add about a cup and a half to this. Okay. Just going to mix it so it's distributed. And then I'm going to add my broth. Okay. I think I need to add a little bit more orzo based off of the amount of broth that I added. And I'm going to give it a good mix. I'm going to increase the heat to medium high, and in a little bit I'll increase it more to high heat. I'm going to continue to stir throughout this process. This takes a little bit of time, so I'm going to let this cook through, and I'll continue to stir, and then I will bring you back into the kitchen with me when we crank it up to high heat. Okay, so now it is on high heat. My broth is boiling and the pasta is starting to cook. So I'm just continuing to stir. Stirring is critical for this to make sure that the pasta doesn't get stuck to the bottom of the pan. And you might be able to even hear it sizzle right now. I can try to bring this up to the camera. Okay, so once it's a little bit more cooked through, when it's at its final stages and the pasta is looking more like pasta, that's when we get to add in the spinach and the tomatoes. I'm going to start with the tomatoes first, and that way the tomato juice can kind of marinate in with the rest of the mixture. And then I will add in the spinach at the end, because spinach takes like no time to cook. I'm not sure if you were able to see in the video. I know it's kind of a hard angle, but the orzo is really absorbing the broth. So you can see some of the broth starting to bubble a little bit, but it's becoming less and less. It's really just becoming one big mixture, which is the goal. That's what we want. So I think it's time. I'm going to add in my tomatoes. I just took the cherry tomatoes and cut them in half. I think they taste better than diced tomatoes. That's my personal opinion. That's my preference. Whatever is more convenient to you and what you like better, go for it. You can even cut them even smaller, but personally I like them cut in half like that. I like the flavor better that way. Okay. And it's that time for the spinach. We are almost at the end. I'm going to bring the heat down just to medium-high heat. Might need to add in extra spinach after. once it absorbs through. I'm going to lower it even more to medium heat. I definitely overstuffed. I overstuffed this pan today, but that is good because there's a lot of vegetables in here. My goal is to kind of just bury the spinach in there, and because of all the other vegetables being warm, they'll cook the spinach through. So I've kind of dug the spinach in there. I think I can add a little bit more spinach now. Okay. So it's looking pretty good. I'm gonna let it sit here for one more minute, maybe 30 seconds. And I think we're all set. So I will serve this into a bowl and then take a picture so that you have reference to see what the outcome looks like. But I hope you enjoy this quick and easy dinner. It took us like 10 minutes, maybe 15. And if you have everything pre-chopped up, then it's actually just that 15 minutes. Or you can use frozen vegetables that are already pre-chopped up, and that makes things go a little bit faster too. So do whatever is necessary for you to make the dinner the way that you will enjoy it. And if you have any questions about nutrition or this recipe, or maybe other vegetables or other food products that might taste good in this, let me know. I am happy to bounce ideas off with you. And so again, my email is cece.reeder, reeder, at kinemafitness.com. Happy to chat with you a little bit more. I hope you have a great rest of your day and a great holiday season.